I've studied battle tactics for over a decade, and almost nothing compares to what happened outside Zaporizhzhia that morning. Moscow believed it was repeating a textbook armored push. Drones in the sky, tanks leading columns, infantry closing gaps. Instead, they walked into what may be the most carefully engineered trap of the war. Tanks didn't just get destroyed, they were lured into pits and kill zones designed weeks in advance. If you've ever wondered how patient preparation beats raw firepower, this story will make it clear. Before we move on, I will like you to subscribe to the channel and like the video. Russian commanders believed that unleashing 180 drones and 120 tanks before dawn would crush Ukraine's defenses in hours. They saw the darkness as cover, the machines as unstoppable, and the timing as perfect, the kind of rapid strike designed to punch holes in a front line before the defenders could even react. But what Moscow's generals didn't recognize as they poured everything down the same route was that it was not Ukraine's weak point. It was the battlefield Ukraine had quietly been shaping, step by step, for weeks. Every track laid forward, every drone circling above, was moving along a path chosen not by Moscow, but by those waiting for them under the soil. The operation was built on scale. Waves of drones climbed into the sky, while armored columns surged forward across open farmland. Drone operators hovered above the battlefield in relay, guiding each machine to its role. Some flew close, hitting trenches or dropping explosives along hedgerows. Others lingered high, transmitting live coordinates of defenders into Russian command centers, giving officers instant maps of where to push next. Behind that curtain of surveillance, the armor moved fast, T-90s leading the way, infantry fighting vehicles stacked close behind, loaders pushing supplies, and detachments of elite troops positioned to exploit whatever cracks opened in the line. To the Russian side, this was a locked system. Drones keeping the air under control, tanks forcing the ground forward, infantry ready to follow through. From their perspective, speed meant safety. Commanders believed if tracks kept rolling and infantry kept close, Ukraine would have no choice but to pull back before daylight. Drone coverage was meant to guarantee that no traps waited on the ground. Algorithms and operators marked clear lanes in the headsets of tank crews, assuring them that those fields had been scanned for obstacles. Once across the ridge, the assumption was simple: momentum would carry them to the next village, and pressure alone would cause defenders to flee their positions. It was textbook shock action, updated with technology, and the officers expected results to match. On the surface, everything appeared to move according to that calculation. Engines roared, moving fast under the whine of drones and bursts of communication chatter. Yet buried beneath those surrounding fields lay weeks of preparation. Ukrainian engineers had not tried to block entire roads or lay obvious mine belts. They worked instead to reshape farmland itself into traps, a scattered pattern of pits, camouflaged craters filled with spikes, and mines planted in patches rather than rows. To reconnaissance, the land looked usable, even navigable. To advancing armor, it was a waiting labyrinth. The shock came when the lead T-90 crested the ridge at full throttle. Its tonnage was enough to collapse a hidden pit, and within seconds, the tracks bit into space rather than earth. The machine sank with a grind of steel against steel as the frame pitched forward, immobilized. Another tank swerved to avoid it, only to strike mines triggered from pressure plates hidden inches beneath the soil. Within minutes, 11 vehicles were paralyzed in place. No Ukrainian troops had revealed themselves. No shot had been fired. Confusion raced through crews still rolling in behind, as the safe lane identified by drones became a corridor of wreckage. Moscow's gamble on unstoppable force revealed its weakness here. The belief that technology and momentum erased vulnerability blinded commanders to deception cut directly into the land. Fields that looked like open countryside became cages. Engines ran but went nowhere, and soldiers watching from their hatches saw their maps collapse in real time. Confidence created the blind spot, and that blind spot left a wedge of 120 tanks frozen at daybreak. And this was only the crack at the edge of something larger. The real collapse began after the armor bogged down, once Ukraine chose to show its hand. What happens when an armored spearhead suddenly finds itself in a field designed as its graveyard? For Russia's assault south of Zaporizhzhia, the answer unfolded in minutes. Engines that had roared in confidence slowed to clumsy reversals. Tank crews cracked open hatches looking for guidance. But each forward movement led to more machines bogging down or snapping their tracks on hidden mines. Yet all this turmoil grew in silence. Ukrainian gunners and tank crews watched through optics and feeds, holding fire while confusion spread across an armored column that had once appeared unstoppable. That waiting game became the pivot. Every minute, the vehicles sat exposed in open farmland. Frustration seeped into Russian units. Officers urged their armor to cut paths forward, but wrecked T-90s and supply trucks clogged the center lane. Infantry dismounted under drone cover, hunting for ways to flank around the stalled metal, only to realize the fields themselves had been reshaped to deny them movement. Grids of trenches and soil disruptions blocked clean paths. Even infiltration squads designed to slip deep behind the lines found themselves visible from above. Ukrainian drones, patient during the initial assault, now shadowed their every step. What was designed as invisible reconnaissance on Moscow's part had flipped. The undetected teams were suddenly glass pieces on a board, highlighted for destruction. The full strike opened when the Bodana howitzers began firing. 16-kilogram shells, outfitted with GPS guidance, arced into the field. Each impact was placed with meter-level precision, striking vehicles frozen in staggered positions. Artillery batteries did not fire indiscriminately. They had waited until the dense grouping of tanks and infantry exposed itself and then treated it as a target bank. Within the first minutes, mobility kills spread across the formation. Infantry caught outside their carriers had no cover but smoke, and those clouds only marked them better for the gunners. The shock multiplied when concealed Ukrainian armor revealed itself. Tank destroyers and hidden armored fighting vehicles rolled forward from covered berms. Their first salvos cut through immobilized T-90s trapped in the mined lanes. A spearhead meant to carve forward now found itself stripped of both protection and initiative. Russians returning fire turned turrets wildly into the haze, but spent ammunition against ground they could not see. In some sectors, fire volleys landed not on enemies, but onto their own abandoned machines, further tangling the advance in confusion. As artillery fire continued, a new phase began on the ground. Ukrainian assault motorcycles appeared from concealment, roaring through smoke plumes and advancing between burned metallic shells. The speed of these small teams contrasted sharply with stranded Russian infantry. They closed distance in seconds, cutting off retreat routes and forcing surrender or annihilation. This pursuit dynamic left no time for Russian squads to reorganize. Mobility belonged entirely to the lighter, faster units, weaving around the wreckage of heavy armor. Further north, in the village of Novopavka, infiltration squads attempting to bypass the battle faced a similar collapse. Precision mortars, coupled with low-flying drones, erased entire teams in minutes. These were hand-picked units meant to create pressure behind Ukrainian positions, but the attempt collapsed before it began. The same technology Russia had wielded for reconnaissance was now hunting its specialists without pause. By the time the smoke cleared, satellite imagery mapped the outcome. A corridor stretching 3.5 kilometers lay blackened with wrecks. Over 1,000 Russian troops were counted dead or incapacitated across the field, and hundreds of armored vehicles sat as burned shells. The farmland itself had become the weapon, engineered in advance to first slow the advance, then trap it, and finally expose Moscow's most capable armored divisions to annihilation. That lesson matters beyond this battle. Preparation, foresight, and strategy often outweigh raw strength. Think about how wars are shaped, not by who has more equipment, but who understands the ground better. And in the middle of it all, one soldier shared water with a wounded teenager, reminding us of humanity.